Here is 80 Microcomputing, which was not the Color Computer's favorite magazine. They really didn't like it that much, but at the very beginning, they did give it a chance. September 1980 was just before the introduction of the color computer, so here's what they say about it. I'm writing this prior to any announcements. Bear in mind when I say, we are about to announce our TRS-80 Color Computer. The color computer attaches to any color TV, yours or ours. A video modulator is built in, and radio frequency interference shielding is excellent. If you look at the 1981 Radio Shack computer catalog, they only really have preliminary information about the color computer. They show it here in the lineup, and they have the information about it, up to 16K of memory, 1500 baud cassette, serial port, expansion pack, 6809 CPU. More expansions, even disk storage, will be available soon, they say. And here's the very famous picture of the businessy looking people using the color computer. My, isn't that quaint? Notice that this is the early color computer because it has the badge on the left side. The new TRS-80 Color Computer. So they show all of the information here. They show the kids playing games. They show chess. I'm not sure what game they have down in the bottom there. One thing to note that this is in sort of the middle of 1980 is that Extended Color Basic was not available at the very beginning. As it says here, it is available on November 30th, 1980. Now we move up to August 1981, the second issue of Rainbow magazine. And here they mention, according to a very highly placed source in a Texas location, which will here and go unnamed, the long-awaited color computer disc will make its appearance in August or September. Rainbow magazine, the fifth edition in November 1981. The headline, "The Tandy Disk System is now available." Here's the 1982 Radio Shack Computer Catalog, number 6. And in here, we find the color computers here in the lineup. TRS-80, the most colorful idea in computing anywhere. Only for $399 with a whopping 4 kilobytes of random access memory. So by this time in 1982, this was the most basic model you could get. They of course had extended basic and 16K at this particular time, which you can see here. In fact, they actually had 32K at this particular time and extended color basic. But most importantly, by this time in early 1982, they had the color computer disk system. So now that disks are actually available for the color computer, you can do fun things like create operating systems. And the first real operating system to appear for the color computer, of course, was Flex. Now we're in 1982, February 1982. This is 68 Microjournal. We find the first advertisement for Flex on the color computer. This one is the one done by Stephen O'Neill, and it was released by Datacomp. And This version of Flex requires the Extron floppy disk drive system, not Tandy's. This system is not compatible with Tandy's disk drive at all. You have to have the Extron one, which was sort of interesting. Of course, Tandy only released their disk system in late 1981. It's not a surprise that this development was going on possibly without knowing about the Tandy system or regardless of it. Also in February 1982, we have issue number 6 of Color Computer News. And there are a couple of different interesting things in this particular issue. So also in February 1982, we find the first ad from Frank Hogg Laboratory for their version of Flex, and actually their version of OS9 as well. And you can buy Flex from them in February 1982 for $199. And it comes with editor, assembler, and installation disk. This issue of Color Computer News also has the very famous article by Frank Hogg, 32K RAM for free, where he basically describes that if you have the 32K RAM upgrade, that they're actually half good 64K RAMs, and most of them are actually good. So this article goes on to explain how you do the upgrade to 64K. All the technical details of how to actually do this. And this is a RAM test program, which Frank Hogg Labs had available in some of their utilities disks. Last in this issue of Color Computer News is an interview in between Color Computer News and Frank Hogg Labs about Flex and Forth and a few other things. One interesting thing that they show here is your ads specifically mention OS9. What is it, and why did you modify it for the color computer? And he says OS9 was specifically written for the 6809 and was a state-of-the-art operating system. Well, it turns out from history, I don't have documentation of this, that Frank Hogg was originally working on a version of OS9 for the color computer. But apparently what happened is Tandy decided not to go with Frank Hogg's version. They decided to work directly with Microware instead of Frank Hogg. So at this time, nobody knew that this was actually going to happen, not for about a whole year later, actually. Moving ahead to the summer of 1982, in August, we have an interesting advertisement. Flex is a powerful addition to the world of ADC. Note that they're calling it the TRS-80C because the term CoCo had not been invented yet. But this article goes on to how impressed they are with Datacomp Flex. This is not Frank Hogg Flex. And by this time, Frank Hogg went full hog on Flex. He's selling Flex for, at this point in time, for $99, along with Forth and a whole bunch of other languages and utilities. Most of these are not specific to the color computer. They're also available for regular Flex as well. I have looked at found some of these things and looked at some of them, but not all of them. We can check some of them out in future vlog episodes. And the last thing for the August 1982 issue of Rainbow Magazine is an ad on the last page for Flex Plus. So this is Spectral Associates' version of Flex. They called it Flex Plus. And initially, it required their own hardware called the supercharger. the supercharger added 32K of RAM on a cartridge that you plugged in to the side of the machine. So there is a version of Spectral Associates Flex Plus, which is floating around, and you can actually run it without the supercharger. We'll show that in a later vlog. Now we're into the fall of 1982 in October, and here's what the Frank Hogg Laboratory advertisement looks like at this time. This ad is going over all of the software which is available for Flex on the color computer. Dynastar, Spell Test, A-Basic, Forth, the assembler, editors, all sorts of fun stuff. Turn your color computer on to the power of Flex and OS 9. So this ad is very interesting. Of course, Flex is now only $99, where it was $199 before. But this is one of a few ads where Frank Hogg actually advertises his version of OS 9 for $200. As far as I am aware, this version of OS 9 is not really out there in the wild. Somebody somewhere may have it. Who knows? Maybe it'll turn up someday. Only time will tell. And here's a review by Lonnie Falk himself about Frank Hogg Flex. And he basically says, it's easy and it's good, is the summary of this particular article. One month later, in November 1982, we have the same interesting ad with Flex and OS 9 from Frank Hogg. The software library gets even bigger. Software catalog, operating systems, Flex, and OS 9. Over here, DBasic is the disk basic that you can use in Flex. I have not quite figured out how to get that working. TSC basic, TSC extended basic. I do have a copy of the extended basic. TSC Pascal, Fortran, Microware, Basic 09 for OS 9, actually. Interesting. A basic compiler, X-Forth, CC-Forth, Dynasoft Pascal, Microware Pascal compiler, COBOL compiler. Wow. And then we have the word processing category, Dynastar, Dynaform, Dynaspell, Stylograph. We do have Dynastar and Stylograph available. TOC text processing. And then there are software development tools. CRAM assembler, OSM, Super Sleuth, translator, a lot of stuff. We'll have to go through some of the software and see what actually works on the color computer and what doesn't. But this gives you an idea of what things were like. Remember, this is October 1982. OS 9 Level 1 wasn't released for the color computer until 1983, at least Tandy and Microware's official version of it. And there's even more software. This is something interesting that Frank Hogg was working on. He called it the solution. It's basically a sidecar box where you can have things like a serial port and a parallel port and a few other things inside the box. And you can see in the diagram here the disk controller on the side. So I don't know if any of these things exist in the wild, but actually some code to operate this actually does exist. I actually have some source code available for this. So we might be able to learn a little bit more about what this thing does.